feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast. We are brought to you by Prize Picks, coming at you Tuesday evening. It's December 2nd. I'm here at Smoothie King Arena in New Orleans with Chris Hine, the Wolves beat writer from the Star Tribune. And we're going to give you some immediate takeaways from the Wolves' overtime win over the Pelicans on Tuesday night. We are now also 21 games into the season, so that's about a quarter of the way through, Chris. I thought we would also kind of take some note of where the Wolves rank, offensively, defensively, some numbers like that, 1/4 of the way through the season. But yeah, Chris, hi, how are you?
I'm good. I think I'm doing better than even some of the Wolves were after this win. Some serious tones being struck in the post-game locker room, which I think is a good thing after
Elaborate.
a win like this one. Well, I just kind of took note of on one side of the locker room, you had like some of the younger guys who were very talkative, as you might expect after a win. And in another corner, you had like Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert, who Julius sounded like they had just lost a playoff game in the last second or something like that. He was very quiet, very somber. Even after having a really good overtime, tough night overall, but a really good overtime for Julius. But he was, and the way he spoke, you would have thought they lost the game tonight. Same with Rudy. Rudy also struck a very serious tone, talking a lot about habits and doing the boring things and things like that. And then in another corner, you had Ant, who I thought was kind of in between the two extremes.
Right.
Like, I think, happy they won and he played well, obviously, especially down the stretch and in the second half, but also recognizing that some of the things that they're doing right now, especially on the defensive end of the floor, not really conducive to the kind of team that they want to be and where they want to get to late in the season. And like you said, we're 21 games in now, so it's not like it's been one bad week. It's been now a quarter of season of games of this team just kind of being inconsistent in some ways.
Yeah, I noted that too.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we could go through what Julius said, what Rudy said, what Ant said, briefly to summarize it. I think Julius was, the word that stood out to me that he used was involvement. Needing to involve myself. When he was talking about like what was hard to get a rhythm or what needed to happen, needed to get involved. I don't know if that's him involving himself or the team involving him more. He was not one for many words. I didn't follow up on what that meant. I could barely hear.
I didn't even know that he used that word, to be honest with you, until you just said it now.
I mean, I think so.
It was a very quiet interview. Yeah.
I mean, again, we're recording this right afterwards, so we're kind of processing in real time. I think I wouldn't say Rudy was somber. I would say Rudy was
Rudy.
Yeah. Frustrated that there's inconsistency with mindset, and he noted like Dante's the only guy in the soccer room who's won a championship and understands the mindset that it takes, that it requires. And I think Rudy's stance kind of always was this thing is we got plenty of talent. Like, there's plenty of talent, plenty of ways to score, plenty of ways to defend with this team, which is all obviously true. And it is just like the mindset. And that is very obviously volatile with this team tonight being a microcosm of that. It was joyful. I mean, he scored.
Yeah, he was Ant. Yeah,
he was, yeah, but also did note the specific, to the defense of like, we're not playing at the level that we need to be. What was his quote? Feels like we're waiting around
for the playoffs to start. And that was his quote. Like, we're waiting around for the playoffs to start. Like, we just want to fast forward the season and get to the playoffs, which Finch kind of echoed that, I think, pregame as well, when he used the word bored to describe how this team played defense in the early going.
Yeah.
And it certainly looked at in the second quarter, especially tonight.
It is interesting. I'm glad they do talk like so transparently with us and use those two, like Finch saying the team was bored and that's why the defense was poor early on in the season. Ant kind of saying that they're waiting around to start. It feels like they're waiting on to start playing defense. I think some people are going to hear that, right, and be like, well, just don't do that, and I think what they are trying to articulate there is we are trying to not play this way. We get out on the floor and we do.
Yeah.
It's obviously something they're hammering home in film sessions and in practice. But I think maybe particularly on a cold night in New Orleans in December,
COVID crowd, as we put it, like
dude, that
friends
crowd
and
was
family
crazy.
crowd tonight. Yeah. Not a lot of people, not a lot of energy in the building.
Yeah, and so this team doesn't have, like a quote unquote championship mindset, right? Of to just jump on a team like that that's without Zion, without a bunch of their main guys, and just put them away early. I think that's what actually all three of those guys and Finch are saying is like, yeah, we won the game. Yeah, we know we can win these games. We could do ourselves so many favors if we just stayed locked in, and we just engaged ourselves. And that is undeniably something that this team is not, right? They are not. And I don't know. I struggle sometimes when we're so meticulously watching one team
Yeah.
and sporadically watching the rest of them to know exactly what the delta is between what they're doing and what other teams are doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't say that to absolve the Wolves of this, but if you or I were covering every single game of another team, even another good team, we would probably be pointing to some of these things. So the people listening will be pointing
That's
to
a
that
good
too.
example. Last night, the Denver lost to Dallas and Houston lost to Utah.
Great.
Like, sometimes these things happen. Now, that's not to say that like you absolve the Wolves of a performance like this, or when they lose, because this team has had a habit of losing those kind of games.
For sure.
It's easier to write off when it's just a one-off, or you're shorthanded, as in the case of like Denver right now, right? But this team, we know, has had issues getting up for games like this. It's cost them games in the standings last season. It cost them games in the standings 3 years ago, not as much 2 years ago, but last year and 3 years ago, it certainly did. And it just feels, I think this was the first time they articulated what I personally had felt. And I'm like, God, it just seems like they don't care because it's not a high stakes game. And that's exactly what we heard tonight. They were bored and saying that it feels like we're waiting for the playoffs to start. Like, that's exactly what it feels like. They feel like a team that needs a challenge in front of them. And it's a I don't want to say a dangerous way to go
We're
through
not
the season, but
we're not saying that's right. We're saying that's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying.
And my opinion on that would be that is dangerous, or yours too. It's going to be dangerous and it's going to bite them. And I think what makes it actually dangerous more so than one loss in the standings, like, that's going to happen here and there. I do think with this team, when they do lose in this way, it's very cratering. It's very it's reminiscent of flaws that they've had in the past. And I think that maybe the frustration, I think the fan base, or even us, watching at times, is like, this, like, the stove is hot, right? And they do.
And you're even going to say it after the game. You're going to say all the right things, and you're going to, Ant's going to have those quotes. Rudy's going to have those quotes. You all know it. And it's just what the human nature aspect of it all I find fascinating personally, just to having covered the NBA for 8 years, just the fighting of the schedule, the fighting of the human nature of it all, to let your guard down on a Tuesday night in New Orleans in front of 5,000 people, or however many people were here. It's one of the more fascinating things that I don't think people quite understand about just life in the NBA, is just fighting that night to night human inclination to take your foot off the gas pedal just a little bit. Try to get by a night at 80% or whatever, right? Because you just maybe don't have the juice every single night the way that like a team like the Thunder does, right?
They do.
That's why they're a champion.
That's what I'm talking about. The championship habits.
The championship habits. And that's what you worry about, is like the way I put it to you before, and the way I wrote it for tomorrow, is at what point are you a team, are you a good defensive team that's going through a little bout of inconsistency, or at what point do you just become an inconsistent defensive team? And right now that line is coming closer into view to me than we might have thought And so that's my big concern from this is I just don't think the habits are there the way that they
So what are
should
action
be.
items? What are action items to create those habits, to counter fatigue, to counter lapses in
Yeah,
energy?
it's I look at that second quarter and I don't know if it's pulling guys in and out of the rotation. I don't know if it's
I wonder about nights off
for
for guys.
certain players.
Yeah, I wonder if, I mean, obviously an example here, Julius didn't have a good game, but even okay, let's use Rudy as an example.
Okay.
What if the game ago against the Spurs, right? They don't
Mhm.
they don't play Rudy really in the second half at all. What if Rudy just gets that night off? You know,
Mm,
and you're going to increase your odds of losing. Like I hear that for sure,
sure.
but if that means Berenger is in the rotation that night, you're getting a fresh leg energy boost. Again, Berenger is going to be worse than Gobert, almost certainly. Or you give a guy a night off, as if DiVincenzo gets the night off or something like that, and now you can give Terrence Shannon Jr. or Rob Dillingham 15 minutes in a game. You know, I'm spitballing here. I'm not saying that's the answer.
Right.
It's certainly not Chris Finch's pattern, but I do wonder if, like on a night like tonight, Julius did not have the energy and the juice early. What if he didn't? What if this was like one off? And like let's not pretend other teams in the league don't do this. It's like, oh, so and so sore ankle, like they missed the game, and it's not wouldn't be an all the time thing, you know.
Mhm.
You know, maybe once a month or something like that. That a Randall or a Gobert, the guys in their 30s, you know,
Yeah.
get a night off, like something like that. I just think something has to be different to counter this roller coaster of energy.
Mm.
You know, it seems I have very little confidence that fast forward to a random game in 3 weeks from now that there will be sufficient energy there. And if they're not playing a 3-18 team, they probably lose. Like, what if they play Denver tonight? Like, you know, that's
Right.
over if you have that energy, and it wouldn't have been it when they're not a 3-18 team. All those sort of things.
Right.
I don't know. I was just thinking about that during the game. Do you need to? Do all the guys need to be playing every single night? Maybe it's a back-to-back thing, something like that. But given the volatility of this energy and their inability from a coaching standpoint or a group standpoint to kind of manage that, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know either. I don't. It's not like this was the tail end of a back to back. They had a night off. You know, they didn't practice on Monday. It was a travel day, and then the second quarter. I mean, at halftime, it was 16-2 and fast break points. That to me is just a complete indictment of effort and focus.
It was a 14-3 run by the Pelicans in the last 90 seconds of the second
And
quarter.
they were running on mates, right? And
Yeah.
they were just running on make or miss. It didn't matter. They were just running because they sensed the Wolves just weren't really paying attention,
Right?
and they weren't.
They weren't. I mean, that's what that was.
I don't know what I said earlier in the season that Mike probably shouldn't be playing back to backs, or that was one way to maybe give Dillingham a little more run was to rest Mike.
I should have used him as an
Mike
example.
shouldn't have played maybe Sunday, right? Saturday takes one of those off,
Right.
right? I think that makes a lot of sense for him, and Rudy, it makes sense as he's getting older too. So maybe, but at the same time, without Rudy tonight, they
lose.
don't win this game,
Right.
So
I'm not saying it's a good idea.
right.
I'm just saying this team has a consistent issue with energy consistency, and that is
They're
either
bored.
Yeah,
They're bored.
That's what Finch said.
They're bored.
They said
That was the right word.
I
They're bored.
do feel a little bad, like harping on energy and stuff when Ant
When
literally
Ant put
played
47 minutes and had 44 points.
Yes. So this is not an Ant specific thing. But let's grab a quick break, and then we'll talk about Ant's big game. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks, as I mentioned off the top, and you definitely would have cashed had you taken more than on Anthony Edwards' 28.5 point total on this game, or Rudy Gobert finished with 26. Would have done you really could have done more than on just about anybody who played in this game, and I think those would have hit. What was the final score? 149, 142.
Yep.
Maybe something to keep in mind if you're playing Prize Picks on Thursday before the Wolves game. But Those numbers for the Wolves Pelicans rematch on Thursday are not yet posted as we're recording this now. So I'm going to do a couple Thursday night football picks here. Should be a good game. Cowboys, Lions. And the numbers in that game are high. They are expecting a shootout there. And I am going to go in the other direction and take some less thans. Give me Javonte Williams to have less than 65.5 rushing yards. Even if it's a shootout, I think that, I don't think that guarantees a big rushing game from Williams. So I'll say less than there. And then Jamison Williams receiving total is 79.5 yards. I know there's no Amon-Ra St. Brown, but 79.5 is a big number. That's the same as CeeDee Lamb. I think that's a bit high, so I'll go less than on that. Always something going on over at Prize Picks. Fun to play, I think, for football especially. You can do a little $5 lineup, and you can play in Minnesota. If you do not have a Prize Picks account, you want to play, all you have to do is put in the promo code Dane when you sign up. You'll see $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com, PrizePicks app, using the promo code Dane. All right, Chris, let's talk a little bit about Ant here. Let me pull this up. Ant, so he played the final 7 minutes of the second quarter.
Yep.
And then he played the entire third quarter. And then he played the entire fourth quarter. And then he played the entirety of overtime. So that is 36 consecutive minutes. In those 36 minutes, he scored 34 points. I'm pretty sure he only had 10 points in the first quarter. He was also getting doubled in the second half as soon as he crossed half court. Yeah. We were sitting next to each other. I pointed, I'm like, look at this double's coming right here. No screen. They're just doubling him. They were doing the make anybody else beat us strategy. That's Ant sees doubles when he in pick and roll game often. It's rare. That's like the Harden, the peak Harden in Houston would get that. Brooklyn, and they were just trying to get the ball out of Ant's hands, and that's been a theme all year. The teams have acted not the pick him up at half court 2 on him, but 2 on the ball, forcing the ball out of Ant's hands. And I got to say, I am impressed that Ant has found a way to score this many points in this many games that he's seeing this type of coverage. I actually, frankly, I can't even really comprehend it, because every possession starts with get it out of Ant's hands. And so it's like, I don't know. How'd you get 44? Yeah. But that is a major credit to Ant. I thought early on in the game, he was a little energy. He talked about it afterwards. He said he was lackadaisical at the beginning of the game, those sort of things. But that he's finding ways to navigate this type of pressure. Not a good Pelicans defensive team, but I don't care who it is. You're getting doubled when you cross half court, and you're finding a way to score 40+ points. That is that's very, very impressive to me, and that he was able to push himself through to play the entirety of that time. I mean, yeah, him and Rudy tonight, they kind of needed every bit of what they gave them. 70 points between the two of them. I was impressed with Ant's sort of diligence and persistence offensively in this game. What stood out to you?
Yeah, that's just it. It seems like when you double him in that situation, just coming across half court, 17, 18 on the shot clock, whatever it is, that's almost like automatic. It's like, all right, you're going to double me, I'm going to pass it, but now we're going to swing it a little bit, and it's going to get back to me in a more advantageous spot. Like, I think that kind of coverage actually plays into his hands a little bit. It's coming that early in a possession.
I think that's a good point.
There's plenty of time for the ball to get back to him.
Yeah,
it's not like it's coming at 10 or 9.
Right.
And like it's so early in the possession that he has time to regroup, move off the ball, make a cut, or figure out a way to get the ball back or whatever. And it's just, I think that's the wrong approach. If you're going to double Anthony Edwards, that's not the way to double Anthony Edwards. I think it's more gap help and that sort of way to double him than just he crosses half court and he gives it up, because he's going to get it back.
I think that was them being like, we don't have any defensive personnel.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Derek Queen is funky and fun as he is offensively, it was in this game. Like, he's not giving you much resistance at the rim. But I like that. I like that point of, if he's getting off of it early in that spot, which you inherently have to, you don't have to wait for the screen to come and 3, 4, 5 seconds come off. You get off it and you can get back to it. I also, I know Rudy looks funky when he catches it on the roll, but I do think Ant has really registered in his head. If they're putting 2 on me up here and Rudy is just kind of trickling down the lane, if he passes it to him, Rudy can just catch and dunk. Like that's happening a lot. Like I think Ant in his mind is starting to go, I'm pretty sure this is a dumb strategy of the way you're guarding me. Whereas 2 years ago, he'd be it's like, oh, come on. I wanna have it here. I want to score. I want to initiate.
I want to go one-on-one.
I think he's like, all right, sure. You want to put 2 guys on me at 40 feet from the basket?
He's not giving up on the play.
Yes.
Like it's not frustrating him anymore to where he's like, are you going to put 2 on me? Well, this possession's a lost cause for me.
Right.
Here, I'll pass it. And now I'm out of the play.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that mindset anymore. He's overcome that. He's seen it too much to know that he shouldn't just give up on a play like that.
Right.
And yeah, he hit Rudy at some key moments too. I think in the overtime as well. I mean,
sure.
that last
Everyone
minute
was
of,
scoring in overtime.
that last minute of overtime was very loose, a very loosely played final 90 seconds of overtime. But overall, like he was fantastic, and I thought, I thought it was especially impressive just given again the volume of things that they are asking him to do this year, which is different than years past. And I don't think you can take it for granted. And we talked with him about that a little bit tonight. Was you're bringing the ball up. You put it well. You said like you're on the ball more on offense and you're on the ball more on defense. And
he was like, yeah,
you're being right.
Yeah.
You're being hounded by Jose Alvarado all the way up the floor, and then you got a guard on defense, and you're putting up 40 points. You're not coming out of the game. Like everything that was on his plate tonight, at any point tonight, he could have just gone like fatigue, meant like just gone blank, right? From fatigue, but he didn't, and it's because of that they really ended up pulling this game out. So I don't want that point to go unnoticed. Like just the amount of stuff that's on his plate right now.
Yeah, and I'm gonna do a couple other. I'm gonna do a pod with Britt while I'm out here too, and I'll have had time to cut up some of those Ant clips because I thought he was pretty interesting post game. Or you guys can go listen to it on the. I'm sure probably it's on the Timberwolves YouTube channel by the time you're listening to this. But it was interesting to hear him acknowledge that. It was interesting to hear him say it's hard. He also said it's definitely possible, to be able to do all of those things. Now, my question is, what about against a better team?
Sure.
Is it, I'm not trying to doubt Ant, but it's just that task of being on the ball and being on the ball.
Well, I think we saw it a little bit against Oklahoma City the other night. And I think the way that he navigated that game, he did get better, I thought, as that game went on.
Sure.
He didn't play as well in the first half, but I thought the second half he was much better. And he was guarding Shea at various moments in time in that game.
But he also, and he said afterwards at the end of the game and the late game turnovers that they had against Thunder were a product of him being lazy, not getting the ball.
Yes.
And what is laziness normally tied to? Fatigue.
Yes.
So it's, I mean, he did it tonight. Like, you can't take away from that. But if we do the more macro thought process on this, and we do think about when it's against elevated, I don't think it's realistic to really bank on that. And Jaden's there to help him defensively, and Jalen Clark at times too. But he doesn't have the same amount of guys on the team who can initiate offense on ball offensively, and this team doesn't have the same amount of guys that can defend on ball on the other side. So I wouldn't know how to put like a value of like how much more he's doing. Is it 1.2x more effort than it is?
Like
it's definitely more. but it's gonna be something to
different.
track.
It's just very different too, and it's I think this is something that he's also kind of handled well in his career is the kind of the different responsibilities that he ends up having to take on, like slightly different responsibilities year over year, right?
Give me a specific
If,
example.
if you think back to year two, um, with Carl, that year and the way that they played offense that year, then adjusting to Rudy coming in, and then Carl goes out, and then he kind of became the first version of Point Ant.
Yep.
That third year gets his first All-Star bid as a result of that. He shifted kind of the way that he played, really having to read defenses for the first real time in his career that season. So that was that season. That to me was a big season in his development, was year 3, because I think that was kind of the precursor to what you're seeing now.
Sure.
And the way that he just started reading defenses a little more. Year 4 and 5, it's like he becomes more of a 3-point shooter, obviously last season. And I just think he has done a good job overall of adapting to what the team asks of him, what the team may need, the personnel around him, trying to make it all work. It's not always perfect. We know that trying to involve Rudy on offense and him finding Rudy and all these things has very much been a work in progress and still is, now in the 4th year of their partnership, but
it's also the best it's ever been.
Yes, it is the best it's ever been. 100%.
I think you're right to say that he does adapt and learn. I don't think those things happen fast.
It doesn't happen fast. So that's my other point. It happens very gradually.
Yes.
These things he improves very gradually in his career. He improves his reading of defenses very gradually, and it happens slowly over time. It is not something that happens lightning in a bottle, or like he grasps something and all of a sudden something unlocks in his head. Like it takes it takes reps is what it takes. It just takes reps.
Well, and I think
seeing
I think that the 2 on the ball thing, getting doubled at the top, is like my number one thing I could point. We can really all picture that, right?
Right.
Set a high screen, they put 2 on them. You got to get off of it, and I have these running through my head from 3-4 years ago of like, right.
What do I do?
And now
people around it.
And then it got to a point where it was like very rudimentary, like the way that he would handle it. He's like, okay, there's 2 here, step through to the side, pass to Nas. Now it's 4 on 3. And it is, I mean, that even took like a year or 2 to kind of even get to that point. But he is getting to that point. I think he's trusting his teammates more in those spots, and that is moving in the right direction. I think Ant's assist total has been totals this year has been a topic of conversation, right? It's been a lot of 30+ point games with low assist totals.
Okay.
And I don't know. I'm struggling to have a big problem with that. I'm not having a big problem with it because I'm seeing him navigate 2 on the ball a lot, which leads to hockey assists.
Hockey, I was going to say, I mean, do we have a number on hockey assists? NBA.com does track some of that.
Yeah, I think we all,
but I don't think that, like, I was just going to make the same point where it's like, I don't think when he makes the right plays in those situations, it's not automatically leading to a shot on the next pass. It inspires ball movement, or the second or third pass ends up being the one that leads to the shot. So I don't know that I necessarily buy that all the time.
I think there's different types. I think he could do more to be a direct assister.
Sure.
Like, I think there's more like penetrating with the intention of finding the corner, and those sort of things. Like, there's just different ways to play make, right? They're demanding that you play make when they W at the top there, right? But the result ends up being.
But that's a good example. Like, you get doubled at the top of the key. You give up the ball, you're not gonna get an assist right away. Usually on that first pass.
Yeah, I don't know. So I would like would grade the navigating double teams well. You know,
high,
maybe it's a 7 out of 10 or something like
Yeah.
that. Now, after being well below that previously,
Hmm.
I don't know. I think there's more that he could do in a more direct point guard type of way, given that that's what this team needs. I think it's fair to say he could give you more there.
Well,
But
I think he does a good job of making the play that's there, right? And I think when you try to get to that next level of like seeing the game and being a playmaker, you make the play that is not always obvious to like the easy out. Like let's compare it to like a check down by an NFL quarterback, right? Sure. Okay, all these options are covered. I'm gonna just make the easy play, and we're gonna get a decent, maybe a decent game. But like maybe waiting for or baiting another defender into making a step, and then all of a sudden, boom, you've got a pass that wasn't there.
Manipulating, manipulating.
That's the step. That's the step. That's next for me. With him. Yeah.
I think he is. It's like a career low in assists, or it's a lower assist total than he's had previously, and that's an interesting. That stat highlights an interesting point, right? Of wait, I thought he was the lead guard. Oh, they're not starting a point guard anymore. Why are Ant's assist totals down? I would just watch what he's doing out there. It's not that I don't think he's ball hogging. It's not that he's forcing his way through double. I mean, sometimes he's going to force his way through, and it doesn't work. And he takes a tough shot, bad shot selection. Like those things happen. But I don't know. I'm going to ask Finch about that. At the next game of what do you make of Ant's assist totals, given that you've been encouraged, by the playmaking. It's. I have not found myself as outraged.
Proof is the pudding of the overall offensive numbers.
Sure, that's a great point. Which is also a good segue, buddy.
I was going to say, this is pay us the big bucks.
That's true. That's true. Today's show is brought to you by Harry's. Very excited to have Harry's on board with us for the holiday season because these are the razors I actually use and have used for years. I remember shopping for razors used to be the worst. Not only were they too expensive, but it was also a process to go to the store and buy the razors. And they never seemed to last, which led to a dull razor, which led to razor burn. My first reaction when using Harry's was, oh, okay, this is what shaving is supposed to feel like. With Harry's Plus, you get a barbershop quality shave with German engineered blades. Each blade is honed at 3 different angles to cut hair cleanly at the root without tugging. And I think the best part of Harry's might be how affordable it is. Harry's owns their own world-class blade factory in Germany, so there's no outsourcing, no middlemen. Why pay $30 for refills when Harry's gives you better blades for a fraction of the cost? For a limited time, our listeners can get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10 at harrys.com/DaneMoore. The set includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, 1 refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. Just head to harrys.com/DaneMoore to claim this offer. And after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. So please support our show and tell them we sent you. Today's show is also brought to you by Storyworth Memoirs. They're back this week, and we're excited to have Storyworth back as a holiday season gift option for your parents or loved ones. I think if you're around my age, this is a great gift to give your parents. The idea behind Storyworth is uncovering stories you didn't know about your loved one. So how this works is each week Storyworth emails a loved one a memory-provoking question that you get to choose. Questions like, what are your favorite toys as a child? What are you most proud of? And all your loved one needs to do is respond to that email with a story. Then after a year, Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book. Photos are printed in color, and it will be a treasure your loved one and you will be able to share and revisit for generations. Customers love Storyworth. They've printed over 1 million books and preserved 35 million family stories since their founding 13 years ago. They also have over 48,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot. I am going to use Storyworth this holiday season. I think you should too. Give your loved ones a unique keepsake you'll all cherish for years. Storyworth Memoirs. Right now, save $10 or more during their holiday sale when you go to storyworth.com/DaneMoore. That's storyworth.com/DaneMoore to save $10 or more on your order. True. All right, let's do it. Let's do a little bit on just where the Wolves rank. These are honestly, their offensive numbers are probably higher now. I put these together before the game, so these are their rankings 20 games into the season. This is something I've started doing actually once I started covering Finch, because right, that's kind of his thing every 20 games. He feels like that's a ample sample size to kind of, it's like a chapter of the 4-chapter book of the season. So we're 20 games in. The offense has been pretty consistently good this season. They ranked 6th in offensive rating, or ranked 6th in offensive rating entering tonight's game, behind only Denver, Houston, New York, Oklahoma City, and the Lakers. And that's been pretty consistently good. And Julius drove a lot of that at the beginning of the season. Obviously, Ant has too.
Yep.
It definitely moving in the sorry, somebody just walked in here. But moving in the right direction. Yeah, right. These posts
moving in the right direction. And they actually did jump up one more slot tonight to 7th after tonight.
Okay, so I was using Cleaning the Glass. I had him at 6th.
Okay.
So
bad.
I mean, but they did
Nerd
move up
using
from
Cleaning the Glass.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry for getting rid of garbage time.
right. I mean, I'm looking on NBA.com because I can just pull it up really easily on my phone. But yeah, well, that's just it. I mean, the 3-point shooting, as you have this here, is has been outstanding, especially of late, and they hit another 39% tonight.
That's a good example of the Ant thing too, though.
I think so too.
When you're talking about the health of the offense, 3-point shooting is often I think a signal of the health of the offense. It's like the shots that you're creating, right? And Julius is
a good
more
creator
to credit
too
that than Ant is.
Yep.
Yeah, but they've been successful offensively, regardless of what Ant's assist totals are there. It was funny. I was looking it up, like turnovers, they rank the exact same as they did a year ago. Offensive rebounding, they rank the exact same 20 games in as they did a year ago.
Yep.
Getting to the free throw line, a little bit less, but I mean, it's largely been the same offense, right? Continuity.
You're right.
And they've been more efficient on that side of the ball. They were 8th in offensive rating overall last season. I think it's frankly the less interesting side of the floor for this team right now, because it's just kind of been the same, which is maybe, if we're saying that you're playing similar offense night to night and you're 6th in offensive rating, that means you're a really good offensive team.
They are.
And I think this is definitely a good offensive team. Not elite. They're not elite. There's the Denvers and Houstons have been up there, elite. But I don't have concerns about offense with this. I mean, that's kind of new.
And that's what's so bizarre about the opening 20 games of this season, is that you would have thought the concerns would have been the comfort and the concerns would have been flipped. And instead, it's like, the offense is doing just fine. Everything's good. Like, it didn't take 20 plus games for the cake to bake on offense this season, as or another Finchism. It didn't take it. Yeah, they hit the ground running pretty much, and they did pick up where they left off on the offensive end of the floor. They have stuck to playing with more pace, as they said. I haven't looked at the numbers lately, but they were middle of the pack, like they said they wanted to be in terms of pace. So they have hit a lot of the markers offensively that they said they wanted to hit.
That probably is what's bumped it up, right? If you're turning it over the same amount, your offensive rebounding the same amount, you're getting the free throw line about the same amount.
And I think
why is it better?
What was their 3-point percentage last season? Do you have that?
I have that they were 6th last year, and they're 3rd thus far this year. Actually, I have it right here. So last season they were 38.1% from 3, 6th in the league, and this year they're 39.3 from 3, which is elite. So they've been an elite 3-point shooting team. So I think that's where we're seeing where we've seen the offense get a little bit better, is shooting the 3 at more frequently and at a higher clip, and then also getting out in transition more, playing more in transitions.
Well, you said the turnover rate was about the same.
Yeah,
that's encouraging, given that they're playing at a faster pace. I would say that that's actually a positive, or an arrow slightly pointing up, that you're able to maintain the same, even though it's not a great turnover percentage. You haven't gotten worse at
It
turning.
feels like it's gotten worse, man.
They have, but if they haven't, then
No, they haven't.
That's
You know,
a good thing
it's-
if you're able to increase your pace without increasing your turnover rate.
Yeah.
So.
So that's where they're at. 6th offensively. A year ago, they were 8th offensively. It's funny. It's inverted defensively. So last season, they were 8th on offense, 6th on defense. 20 games into this season, they are 6th on offense, 8th on defense. Only behind Oklahoma City, Detroit, Houston, Miami, Toronto, Dallas, and Golden State. For as many words as I've said about the defense this season, as much as you've written about the defensive woes,
I did again.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're 8th.
Well, NBA.com has them at 12th after tonight. So
okay, well that probably did.
Yeah,
there wasn't garbage time tonight, so they probably dropped out a little. I mean, they gave up 142 points.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know. Are we doing the thing with the defense where we're so tethered to what it was 2 years ago and comparing everything
we are
to that?
We are.
But
we are.
We are.
Because that's the gold standard. So
Yeah.
we're comparing everything that we see.
Okay, so if it's the
against
gold
that.
standard,
Yeah.
then what should the standard be? I don't think that's realistic.
Well, it's not realistic to get back to number 1 right now, but I don't know. Like,
talk in your mic.
I'm thinking, I'm pondering. I guess you when you watch the games, it's just obvious that this team just has more in it. It may not be number 1, but it's certainly not what they showed tonight. It's not what they showed in the first half against Boston. It's not what they showed in the first 3 quarters against San Antonio.
Yeah.
Like, they got more in there. They just do. And they
So as to quote Ant, it
Yeah.
feels like we're waiting around
right.
to play defense in the playoffs. If the playoffs were tomorrow, how much better is the defense?
A little bit better, I'm sure, but I don't know that. But even in the playoffs last year, like, the defense, it was there for
Yeah, but
a
it wasn't
decent
2
part
years
of it,
ago.
but it wasn't 2 years ago. And game 4 of the Western Conference Finals, when they really could have used another good defensive performance, when the offense was actually playing well against Oklahoma City, the defense wasn't there that night, and they lost game 4 because they had a bad night defensively. And so they didn't really have a ton of bad games defensively 2 years ago in the playoffs. When you think back to that playoff series, Dallas beat them because
they beat them.
Dallas played better offense than the other teams played against them, but it wasn't like they were shredding them except for game 5. It wasn't like they were shredding them in those first 2 games. The Wolves played pretty bad offense, missed a lot of shots.
Sure.
Like, the defense was mostly there. And at time, I don't know, at times in that Thunder series, it felt like the defense wasn't
agree with
there.
that.
Wasn't there.
I think it's connectivity, right? I think about when they're the number 1 defense 2 years ago, and we can all picture the possession against Phoenix. We can picture that possession in the regular season, guarding Kyrie and Luka. There's just a bunch of times where the defense was extremely connected, and I feel like now there are very few of those possessions where all 5 are operating on a string. There's Jaden is a great individual defender. Rudy's been a great individual defender at the rim. Ant and Jalen Clark, good defenders as well. It feels more like individualistic. Is that a word? Individual,
Sure.
defensive, like, push rather than connectivity.
Good way of putting it.
And you look at Oklahoma City, who is playing at the gold standard level defensively, and you watch them play a game, especially in the fourth quarter, but frankly, throughout the game, and there is just a connection on a string that the good news is this team, at least, or most of the players on the roster, have experienced that and felt that before. And I think that has to be like, that's the hope. That's the ceiling of this team, is that they can, like, recreate that string, and guys like Jaden and Ant and Rudy and Nas, who have been here, were on that team, be like, yeah, like, oh, we got it back. Oh, we're doing it again. That connectivity saved Cat. Like, that's what made them be able to survive not survive, but be able to be an elite defense with Karl Anthony Towns, who is a mediocre defender.
Mhm.
Julius Randle is a mediocre defender. I think it's critical that everybody else plays more connected defensively and energetically so as to kind of be able to hold up a Julius Randle who has limitations on that side of the floor, or a Rob Dillingham with limitations on that side of the floor.
Mhm.
It'd be really cool to see like a good 2-3 week stretch where you're like, the defense was awesome. What did that look like? And frankly, I think it's pretty important that they do that.
I
at
think
some
it's
point.
yes, they
So they can
they need
take
to discover that for themselves, that they're capable of putting that kind of stuff together for a longer stretch of time, because that's what you're gonna have to do come April. And right now, we just see it in spurts. We see it for a quarter. We may see it for most of one game,
Mhm.
and then and when they got it back recently, it was largely against not great
Right.
competition. Which, okay, we're harping on them for not showing up against a bad team tonight. They did in some instances earlier before the Phoenix and Sacramento meltdowns.
Yeah.
But so it's just again, it just comes back to consistency. The consistency of wanting to do it in the course of the regular season, and instead of being a 12-8 team right now, you could be a 15 or a 13-8 team. You could be a 16-5 team,
Right.
or whatever. Like that's the difference.
And that's just the margins, right?
Yeah.
And I think again 2 years ago that team did the stuff on the margins, and they had Kyle Anderson, who's a really good defender. They had Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's a really good defender, and you've replaced them with different types of defenders.
But at the same time, maybe we just have to accept it. Like, this is a different team, and they're not quite
Right.
capable of that.
Finding a different way
those
to defend,
highs.
but this group can still be connected.
Right.
Kyle Anderson or Nickeil Alexander-Walker helped them be
Mhm.
connected. Those guys came off the bench.
Yeah.
Like they're the eighth and ninth man. Like that shouldn't be the death knell to this team's
Mhm.
defense. And it hasn't been. Again, eighth. I mean, we're kind of hacking at this right now.
Yeah.
They're eighth in defense, but I think we all know watching this team that they can do more. And I think we all know that if the aspiration is to be a contender in this, it has to be more.
Yes.
And they haven't even been defensively what they were last season. They're generating fewer turnovers. They're allowing significantly more offensive rebounds to opponents, and they're fouling more.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just you do the four factors, the bare essentials of it. Like, there's things they're not doing.
Because all right, if you're gaming this out and you're thinking, all right, well, they get back to the Thunder or meet the Thunder again in the playoffs, what is the more likely path of you winning 4 games against the Thunder? And it's defense. It's not necessarily solving their defense.
Right.
To me, it's turning the games into rock fights, essentially, and winning low scoring defensive grudge matches that you just pull out at the end of games. Like, that's, to me, is the pathway to winning a series against the Thunder. It's, you're not going to master their defense.
Right.
You got to match them blow for blow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you got to kind of develop some of that mettle, some of that toughness, over the course of the season. And that we keep going back to the Ant quote of waiting around for the playoffs. Like, it won't work. It won't work to wait around for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think it can work if they find this over the course of the season. Because I think they do have enough. I do think they have enough defensively to do what you're talking about.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of, at what point does what you've shown now for 20 games become who you are? And that's where they're at. They're in that middle ground right now of still figuring themselves out, when they know there's more in there, but can they tap into it? And they just haven't tapped into it enough so far.
That is the question, Chris.
That is. That's why we watch the games.
Do you have anything else that you want to hit on or mention?
No. We'll be here again on Thursday. Do this all
back
over
on the road, Chris.
That's right. Yeah, for this time around.
For this time. No, this is fun. We're hanging out in New Orleans, and tracking what this team is doing. We'll Chris and I will do another podcast after the Thursday night game. We'll do the same thing. Do a late pod immediate reaction. It has been a while since I've had Britt on, because we didn't do one last week for Thanksgiving. So from my hotel in virtually. Britt and I will do a podcast on Thursday. I'll have a little bit more time to kind of process some of this stuff, get some of the clips, get some numbers put together, and we'll have Britt on to do, another podcast now with the Wolves. 21 games into the season. Chris, I appreciate you spending an extra 47 minutes and 30 seconds here after we were done doing a podcast.
Nowhere else I'd rather be in New Orleans than sitting here in a small press conference room with you in one of the greatest cities in America. Yes,
absolutely. Thank you. So until Thursday morning when I record with Britt, he's Chris, I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah. Hope you